Welcome to Season 2 of the Rise podcast, brought to you by Rise Physio and Rise Fitness. I'm Matthew Camilleri, I'll be your host. I'm a physiotherapist and the founder of Rise Physio and Rise Fitness. Our mission is to help you move better for the long term. We'll share expert tips, real rehab situations, and how to be better for the long term. Building a stronger, healthier you, one step at a time. Sana Grillo, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. You?
Fantastic, thank you. Cool. So I'd love to jump straight into it. And for me, one of the most interesting things about you is the fact that you managed to change disciplines, something so many people find intimidating, almost impossible. So correct me if I'm wrong, you went from the gymnastics national team onto the pole vault national team. How did that happen? Why did that happen? What's that bit all about?
Okay, so I'll start off with like a bit of a background. So I was in gymnastics for 10 years. I started at around 7 and I stayed till 17. After that, there were a few issues, things I wasn't really happy with, and decided that I want to give another sport a go. At first, I attempted sprinting. 2 years later, I realized I hated running. Honestly, it was just terrible. And funnily enough, I found out there was a pole vault coach, and it always interested me. And especially coming from gymnastics, there are a lot of similarities as well. So I decided to give that a go, and the rest is history.
There we are. Cool. And you've said to me that you still miss gymnastics sometimes to some extent. What do you miss? What do you miss about that part of your life? Did you kind of think of yourself as a gymnast, or do you just miss being you've mastered a skill and then you have had to let it go? What do you miss from that part of your life?
I think gymnastics is such a interesting sport in the sense you're constantly pushing your limits, trying new things, and it's so different. So there are all the different apparatuses, and I think the feeling of flying, funnily enough, I still do it, but in a different way. But that feeling is very interesting, especially trying to coordinate your body to do different things. I would say that's the main thing. And I think I'll always be a gymnast, at heart.
Something that never leaves you, considering you started
Definitely.
at such a young age and you did it for to such a high level for so long. It's something that just stays with you for...
Exactly. No, and funnily enough, I was actually fairly old when I started. A lot of gymnasts start at 3.
Okay.
So...
Okay. And when we were speaking, preparing for this, you told me that through gymnastics, you had to deal with a significant amount of overuse injuries. So there was constant talk of having to take steroid injections. There was talk of potentially needing surgery. Is that something common in gymnastics? Is that something that you see a lot in athletes playing and preparing for the sport?
Definitely. I think gymnasts have, they put their body through so much daily, and there's so much impact and all this, that many of the gymnasts I meet have overuse injuries. Have at least 2-3 body parts that are just not working so well. But yes, in fact, that was one of the reasons why I had opted to stop gymnastics, because of this injury that you mentioned. I had an impingement in my Achilles, basically, and I had taken 2 steroid injections to try and, I guess, hide the pain, because in reality it didn't really heal it. And doctors had told me the only way to get through with it is through operation, and I wasn't really looking forward for that.
That was one of the things that really pushed you away from...
That was one of the few things. I think there were quite a few things that at the end of the day told me listen, let's move on from this, let's close the chapter and move on.
Yeah, and I mean, it takes quite a strong person, and it's quite a tough decision to make, to let go of a sport like that has helped you to build yourself up, to become the person you are, and then to make that complete change.
Yeah, for sure. I think I spent the first year at least just being if someone asks me who I am, I'm still a gymnast.
Yeah.
It was very identity wise, it was a struggle. I think even now that I'm an athlete again, it's a bit different, but especially there was a phase where I was just trying out a new sport. It was a bit of a gray area, I guess, when it comes to that.
And since obviously injuries are a topic that we speak about a lot, and it's something both of us deal with on a day-to-day basis in reality, What is there anything you'd advise your younger self, kind of now that you have a bit more foresight? Like, is there any advice you'd give a younger version of yourself on kind of how to avoid all these injuries, or was it just something that kind of happened?
I think, honestly, I was fairly lucky, especially when I was younger, with regards to injuries. I did have those few overuse injuries, but at the end of the day, it wasn't anything too major. So I would say I had a very lucky like career when it comes to my gymnastics phase. Something I would suggest, like, do the ice when you need to do the ice. I hate ice. Like, till this day, I'm a bit ick about the ice. But I mean, I think something that we're really lacking, like something that we never had, is like someone that can help us actually build the right strength that we need. I mean, we always had like the conditioning aspect to our training. We always spent at least 30 minutes to 45 minutes conditioning. But it's very different, I think, than actually having someone that can actually like guide you through it.
With strength training,
With
you're
strength
saying,
training,
so kind of
yes,
that
yes.
progressive overload,
Exactly.
gradually building more strength. Yeah.
Exactly.
It's definitely something we talk a lot about a lot at Rise, like the massive importance of progressive overload, of gradually building more strength in your body, and like
Exactly.
that's really what gives you resilience, isn't it? So
That's true.
Yeah.
And especially when you're at a young age, you wouldn't really know how to go about these things. So it would be nice to have someone that can actually, and as well with gymnastics, there is a lot of that like push to your limits mentality, which okay to a certain extent, but not okay as well.
I mean, that grind till you break mentality and just like ignoring the recovery, going hard day after day is usually what causes these.
Exactly. And I think even nowadays, now that I'm older, I still, like, when I was young, I was always like, push yourself, even if you're in pain. Like, you're going to push, keep pushing. And till this day, I do still feel like I still have that bit of a mentality, which is not ideal, obviously. But obviously, it was like ingrained in me from when I was young. So it is something that's stuck. Although nowadays, I do prioritize my recovery.
A lot more.
I think before it was like no off days, practically,
Yeah.
and now I do know when to take that step back.
Yeah. Well, a big part of maturing as an athlete, I guess, as well, learning a bit
Yes.
more about your body. So one topic I'd love to talk about, and I know this had quite a significant impact on your sporting life, is you had qualified by score for the Mediterranean Games. Is that correct?
Yeah, Mediterraneans.
And for some reason or another, you weren't sent to that competition.
Yep.
And I know that had quite a significant effect on like your trust in the system and just your love of the sport. So what happened there? Is this something that typically happens in Maltese sport? What's that all about?
So yes, as you mentioned, when I had participated in Commonwealth Games, I had qualified for Mediterranean Games, and again, I don't know the details. Thankfully, I forget by age. But they did not send me, and like that really frustrated me and even my family, because at the end of the day, it's like, okay, I got the results. Why am I not going to this competition that I clearly deserve, kind of?
Of course.
And that was, again, one of the reasons, again, things were piling up. One of the reasons where I said, let me go to a different sport that hopefully if I get the result, they have no choice to send me, kind of. So it was a very frustrating time, especially just, again, you work so much and you put all those hours and effort and so on, and then you still don't get, for example, this competition, you know.
They're the little things that kind of really demotivate you and that
Of
really
course.
put you off.
And again, that's one of the reasons that made me decide to switch sports, because I'm like, it's not really fair that I'm putting all this work and I'm not really getting, you know, the competitions that I want to go to.
Yeah. I mean, it's tough with, I guess with this situation, there was an objective reason for you to go. It's, I think sometimes even worse in sports like perhaps rugby, which is my background, or football, where it's completely up to the coach. If they're going to select you for a game, they select
Yeah.
the amount of game time. That can be such a massive demotivator for athletes. And I guess something I'd love to speak a bit about a bit more when we talk about the sports psychology and mindset portion of this. But just to transition along quite quickly, perhaps, in 2021, you picked up pole vault,
Yep.
correct? And I know that some of the skills of gymnastics transferred from that. Do you feel that the background in gymnastics has helped you get to where you are now with regards to pole vault?
It definitely speeded up the progress. So with regards to pole vault, there's the run, which is the athletic part, but then the work on the pole as such, it's all gymnastics. So having that body coordination really helped. I think gymnastics is the best like sport for everyone to start when they're young, though.
Okay.
Because it teaches you so many different like aspects. Like it teaches you balance, it teaches you coordination, strength, power. Like you can name them all, honestly. But that was something that definitely like helped me get into like pole vault a bit quicker, I guess.
Yeah, but on the other side of the spectrum, so there's stuff that helped you, but it's such an intimidating sport. Like when you think about it, you're literally launching yourself into the air, hoping to get over. Did you have any of these kind of beginner moments that completely humbled you and made you kind of question your decision to change?
Not really, because I think gymnastics is like, to me, it's like the biggest sport. It's number one. Like even when it comes to fear and all this, like especially like flipping on a beam is like insane. So at first, I did not think of it as too like scary, I guess, or intimidating.
So you didn't really have this
I
like
know, it
massive
didn't
fear
click.
from pole vault. You weren't like, oh, you're just like, screw it, I'm gonna do it.
Yeah, it didn't click. But even like something that made me a good gymnast when I was young is I was fearless. Now I'm grown up. I know there are consequences, and I'm not the same. Like,
Okay.
but I think more than just being fearless, I had a lot of trust in my coaches as well, which really, really helped.
Okay.
Because
Okay.
it's just like, okay, if you tell me to do this, okay, I'll go.
I'll do it.
I'll do it.
Okay. And I mean, this takes us on really nicely to a big part of your life, and it's basically what you do for a living as well, which is mindset. So I'd love to zoom into that a little bit. And one of the big questions I'm really looking forward to asking you, and I'm going to ask you now, is this massive debate between talent and kind of hard work. Do you think kind of mindset and hard work is more important than talent? Are some people just born to be good at something, or does everyone have to work hard at it?
This is like a very big debate. And I've had multiple arguments actually about
Okay.
it. So I do believe that there are people that are born with more talent. Definitely. There are certain genetics that will help you with specific sports. I think it's also important to be smart as to kind of maybe the sport, the direction you choose. Because maybe for one sport it's better to be tall, one sport is better to be short. It should not limit you either way. Pole vaulters are meant to be tall, and I'm 5 foot, so it's like. But at the end of the day, no matter how much talent you have, if your mindset, if you're not ready to do the work, like you could just pack it up in a box and just do nothing with it, you know?
Yeah. So you feel like just being born with talent is not enough to carry you through. Like there definitely has to be an element of hard work there.
It will make things easier in the beginning, but when things get tough, again, like you need to be able to put in the effort, you need to be able to make those sacrifices that you need to actually push forward. If you don't have that mindset of, you know, I need to work hard to achieve something, then you're gonna get lazy.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
how I see it.
And I'd love to, I know it's not, never nice, but I'd love to turn this on you. So obviously your brother is one of the best sprinters Malta's ever had. You are a like multiple medal winning athlete in 2 different disciplines. Do you feel you are genetically gifted to some extent? Like do you just feel that you were built for sports?
I do think we were genetically gifted. I'll give it to my mom and dad. I do feel my brother was more than me though.
Bit of jealousy there,
I
huh?
tell him like you have all the cool genes as well. But I think at the end of the day, me personally as an athlete, I think it's my hard work that got me to where I am. Especially like I've had comments from coaches as well. Oh, because you're very short, you won't get there in pole vault. Like I've had these comments, you know.
So that's been said to you, like there have been coaches just said like, give up, try something else.
Yeah, no, I have had coaches saying that.
Okay. And you mentioned to me a lot, and even now just from this conversation, it really comes out, like it sounds like you have an undying love for sport. You just really love sport. Has that been something which has carried you through these tough patches, just knowing that you want to do sport, you want it to be part of your life? Like, is that something in your mindset?
I think sport was always, I mean, can't really say always, because my parents like were never into sports,
No way,
which is
okay.
hilarious. But as soon as I started, like, I started sport. I've always loved sport. Like at school, I used to try and play everything. I used to come to tell my mom, "Mom, can I try this? Can I do this? Can I go into a different sport, kind of like another sport?" I'm like, she's like, "Son, you don't have time in the day. Like you can't do it." But more than anything, especially the older I got, the more I noticed the sport gave me so much of my values. Like I wasn't always the best in school, but the values that you learn from sport are just, to me, so much more important.
Yeah, something you just keep with you for the rest of your life and just guide, it's like a guiding light through everything else.
Definitely, and it's like the personality, my character has been shaped a lot through it, like certain discipline, certain even like working with others, leadership skills. Like there are so many skills that I have learned through sports, and like this idea of you have to sacrifice this for something. Again, it's something that I don't think school can really teach. It's something that sport really, really knows how to teach.
Definitely. And I mean, you've obviously worked a lot on your mindset. I'm sure if I were to ask you, you've developed your mindset a huge amount and you've actually worked on it. And now it's part of your life to help others work on it. And one of the things I'm very interested in is, and I'm sure many people are, when it comes to training your body nowadays, it's kind of, we have that blueprint. So we have a blueprint of what you should be doing, obviously with some individual changes from person to person to get stronger, to get better, to develop yourself. But it feels like training the mind is a bit more wishy-washy almost.
Yeah.
It's like we're not as sure, it's not as straightforward as science almost. So what's the area of sports psychology all about? Can you tell me a bit more about that just as an introduction?
Basically, it's very similar to kind of like a therapy session. For anyone that has been to a therapy session, it's like you go, you discuss certain maybe issues that you might be having, because a lot of people do come with issues. In reality, it would make more sense if it's something that you maintain rather than just wait until an issue comes and then you end up going. But it is a lot of like trying to understand your behaviors and trying to become aware of maybe what is working, what is not. So it's like a very like reflective space. And I think at the end of the day, that's something that is so important, because we don't really have the time kind of to really think about, oh, maybe this is working, maybe that's not working. And eventually we do give like these mental skills and strategies, things like visualization, things like breathing exercises, relaxation tips, and so on and so forth, that can help the athlete depending on their issue that they come with, let's say that.
Yeah. And
or their struggle.
you mentioned to me that with regards to struggles, one of the big problems you see is people getting stuck either in the past, so getting stuck in past mistakes, or obsessing on future outcomes. And I guess one of the most important things to do is teach people how to be present, to be aware. Am I correct in saying that it's something that you deal with very often, that people are often stuck between the past or the future and like they really struggle to get into the present?
Yes, definitely. I think a lot of my work, I work a lot with the younger generation as well, which I think, can I say that I prefer it a bit? Because
we fear working with the younger
I
generation.
prefer.
You prefer it, okay.
Because unfortunately, sometimes I do get like older athletes which have such a like closed off mentality. Like they probably just try it just to say they tried it, but they don't come in with an open mind. So with younger kids, it's very good to help teach them the mindset from a young age. Obviously,
Okay.
it develops much better.
Okay.
So with regards to this past, future, present situation, a lot of athletes do come in overthinking because I made a mistake. What if I make another mistake? Or what if the score isn't the score I want? So there's a lot of like worries about the future that, again, might not even happen. A lot of the time, our brain is just like coming up with situations to kind of scare us away. And then there are people and athletes that do come in with like, they made a mistake and they fear making another mistake, which holds them back, obviously. At the end of the day, if you're constantly afraid of making a mistake, you're gonna like try take that step back and not push your limits, not push yourself out of your bubble, kind of. So a lot of the work I try to do is help them understand how important it is to stay present and try and like push away these thoughts. Again, it's much harder than just saying it, and it's not about just coming to one session and everything will be fine after, you know. It's a constant like work and evaluation of what is being done, becoming aware of what is helping and what is not.
Yeah, and I think one of the big parts of your approach and what you try to do is bringing this awareness to people. You really try to make people aware, athletes, people, whatever. You try to make them aware of the problem. And I guess that's kind of step one of this framework that you had spoken to me about.
Exactly. At the end of the day, when we're aware of certain behavior, if we know that if A happens, then B is going to happen, then it's like we can already kind of predict and potentially stop if it's a bad behavior, you know? So at the end of the day, awareness, I feel, is a big key to developing the right mindset.
Okay. And what's the next step? So let's say I'm aware that I'm playing my sport and there's this particular skill I really fear, so I try not to do it. With rugby,
Okay.
for me, it was always passing. I was always afraid of passing towards one side because I was afraid of messing it up. I'm aware of it, but what's the next step? What do I do about it now? Kind of what's the toolkit? What's the strategy that can help me to fix this particular problem?
Okay, so first you have to kind of face your fear, you know what I mean? So at the end of the day, it's important to help them understand that training is there to make mistakes. If you're constantly afraid of making mistakes, you're going to limit yourself. You're going to already create like a block, you know, like a wall. So you have to, again, reframe this idea of mistakes. What's a mistake? What is a loss? What is a failure? You know, is it something bad or is it something that can help me grow? So I think that's something that I try work a lot with athletes, that this idea of mistakes being seen as something bad has to be like forgotten. Because we learn from our mistakes. If there was a baby that I use this example, it's really funny. If there's a baby that's tried to stand up but fell and then never tried again, what's going to happen?
They never walk, they never
Exactly.
get anywhere.
So you have two options. Either you're going to just not do anything about this mistake and just say, you know,
I can't do it.
I can't do it. Or else you're going to try again, which is, again, a lot of where the mindset plays a role of.
Okay.
So again, there are a lot of things like certain skills and strategies that I mentioned before that is always trial and error. I always tell athletes that, listen, just because I tell you this doesn't mean it's going to work. But we're going to try it. Then you come. And again, it's super important that they're honest, you
With
know,
you, with the
me, with
strategy.
themselves, you know. If it's not working, it's not for them. So, for example, I've had athletes where I've told them to try visualization and they struggle. They tell me I can't see myself in my head. So something that I suggest is them watching themselves perform well. Obviously, we don't want to see the bad.
So you just don't look at the bad?
Don't, as in, so you have to give yourself, like, let's say you have a competition. You had like your bad, you had your good as well. It's important that you learn from your bad. You look through your bad, you learn from it, but you don't obsess over it. And you don't use it, especially when you're going before a game, before a competition. Because you don't want your brain to be thinking about the bad that you did. You want to be your brain to be thinking about the good and the times you did well.
Okay. And I think the last bit that you mentioned here, so we've talked about the awareness and the strategy. I think there is different awareness for different people, and that's a big part of your job.
Definitely.
There are different strategies which you have to try, so that's like the intervention. And then the last bit, which is the check-ins, just to check if things are working or not. So would you dedicate a session, a follow-up session, where you'd meet the person again and check if the strategy is working?
With sports psychology, I think that it is, again, it's something that should be in the bubble of sports, which unfortunately, especially here in Malta, I don't really see it as it being in the bubble. You can look back to, my brother went to the Olympics last year and they didn't have a sports psychologist with them. And this was a team of young athletes, first time going to the Olympics, you know, my brother described it as going to war, being on the start line, because it was so like, even the arena is insane, you know, so again, what I mean is you need to have you need constant maintenance of your mind, you know, and especially that can help you from if an issue or a struggle starts to develop, you catch it early, not things start building up and then things get bad and then you go. This is the same as therapy, you know. It's like,
It's
it's
the same. I
very
love giving these parallels to what I do, which is a lot of strength training and injury prevention. And it's the same thing. If we can kind of screen you before a problem happens and then try to guide
Exactly.
you away from it becoming an issue rather than you've torn your Achilles tendon and now we need to do a 1 year rehab process to get you back. Is that quite
that is
similar with the
exactly it.
mind?
That is exactly it. Again, the more you can maintain it, like once a month, you know, that's, I would say, the ideal, having that once a month. If there are issues and there needs to be dealt with like constantly and so on, that's fine. But at least once a month you get to, and you use it as a reflective space for yourself, you know, and I think that's very, very needed for athletes, for everyone, honestly, you know.
Okay. One of the things you've said to me and it really stuck with me is this concept of training yourself to be the person who you want yourself to be. So kind of that mindset of I'm not born this way, I need to become this way. And from what you're saying, sports psychology is a big part of kind of training yourself to be the person that you want to be, correct?
Yeah, so what I meant by that, it's like if you want to be the person that wakes up early, like something silly, you have to train yourself every day to try and do it. And again, then that habit becomes a way of life. And I think that's like easy to say with a lot of other things. Like if you want to be an athlete, you know, call yourself an athlete, do the work, call yourself an athlete, and it will come, you know. So I think it's these like little habits that slowly, the more you build onto them, the more you can actually create the person you want to become at the end of the day.
Cool. I love that. I love building. I don't know if this is only me, but I love to have a framework around stuff. And I love that we've talked about this framework of awareness, strategies, and check ins. And I think a lot of people will be interested in that middle portion now, like the strategies that we can use to change a negative thought or to build a negative belief mindset in our own minds. So you've mentioned the strategy of watching yourself doing positive things. You've mentioned the strategy of visualization, of trying to watch
Yeah.
ourselves in our own minds. Are there any other strategies that you use with athletes when perhaps visualization and watching themselves hasn't worked? Is there anything else that you suggest maybe people can try?
Okay, so again, there are quite a few strategies like that you can go through. A lot of like relaxation ones, like breathing exercises, and there's like meditation and all this. I think one of my favorites is just reframing. It is literally trying to get the negative and switching it to the positive. Again, when it comes to these skills, it's not, yes, that makes sense. I have it now. It's something that, like, one day you're gonna try it, you're not gonna manage. Then the next day you're gonna, like, it's gonna click to you a bit earlier, and so on and so forth, until one day you're able to catch the negative thoughts. I think something that a lot of humans struggle with is we think more negatively than we do positively.
Okay.
And again, that affects our perspective as to how we're going to view life. So I think that's like one of the main things that I try to help athletes and individuals understand, that if you're going to view something as negative, it's going to be negative. But if you're going to try view it as something positive, a challenge, maybe if it's something that you don't really like, then it's going to reward you.
Okay. I'd love to dig a bit more into this reframing because I think it's something that can really help people. So can you give me a bit more of an example maybe of how that's done? So let's say I have a negative belief around scoring in football. I can't ever get the ball into the net. How do I reframe that belief? How do I, like, what's reframing all about?
So you have like a fear of it not
Of not being able to score, for example.
Okay. I mean, if you're gonna come with me with that, again, sports psychology, you're jumping a lot of things. Why are you scared? So
Okay.
there is like so much that can go into it. It's like, why is there this self-doubt? What, you have low confidence clearly if you don't believe that you're capable. You have this low belief, you have self-doubt, so there are a lot of things that one doesn't lead to the other. And that's what's beautiful, I think, about sports psychology. It's this like map, it's this puzzle that you're trying to understand.
Okay, and a big part of your job is understanding that person in front of you.
Exactly.
It sounds like a silly amount of work to do to understand a
But
human
it's-
in a couple
it's
of hours.
great. And that's why it's something that it takes time. You can't go to a first session and expect things to be fine. The first session is basically trying to get to understand the person. At the end of the day, I understand sports psychology, I understand mindset, but whoever comes to me knows themselves the best. I don't know that person until that day, you know?
Of course.
So it's important that there's a lot of teamwork as well involved in it.
Between the sports psychology practitioner, the
And,
athlete,
yeah.
other coaches who are probably...
Preferably coaches, physios, like as much as possible, I believe there should be like a bubble, you know, of like what an athlete needs. Their parents are such an important part of it as well. That obviously there has to be the system where there's this communication between them to find the best possible outcome for that particular athlete. Again, I think we're so different as individuals, and it's important to treat each individual as that own person. You know, there might be similarities, but at the end of the day, it's very individualistic, you know?
Of course, and you as a practitioner have to understand that and be able to guide that person through it as well. Strategies. I'm loving these strategies. I think they're so real world. They're things people can take away. So we've mentioned kind of watching yourself. We've mentioned journaling. We've mentioned reframing. One of the things I was very interested in is kind of changing negative thoughts and not constantly thinking negatively by time boxing a problem, time boxing pressure.
Yeah.
Could you tell me a bit more about that? So time boxing is a concept of...
Okay, so this is something that I really used, honestly, this season. I was in such a down mood. I was just, things weren't working. And constantly I found myself just thinking of this negative, like being upset, being disappointed, being frustrated because I can't do anything. And I realized that I got so anxious and so like sad, like generally. So I remember I was listening to like a podcast, and someone had mentioned like, don't think of all the things like whenever, in the sense that you have to create a slot. And I used to do this after training. So I had training, it was a terrible session, and I give myself 10 minutes to think about pole vault. It could be good, it could be bad, whatever, but I give myself 10 minutes because I found myself thinking about pole vault too often, and it wasn't helping, you know. It was just making me overthink more, it was just making me more anxious. And having those 10 minutes, I used to always try to say, okay, wait, I'm not going to think about it now. I'm going to think about it when I'm giving myself that slot, like. Okay. And you realize how much your mind overthinks, how much your mind wanders to like all these like negative situations. And funnily enough, then eventually it came to a point where I'm like, okay, I don't need those 10 minutes, because I felt like I could understand like and be able to like distract the thought.
Okay. I think that's such an interesting concept, to almost set an appointment with yourself to think about certain things rather than just letting your mind kind of remind you of the problem whenever. It feels like a really good skill to be able to say, okay, I'm going to think about this later. It's scheduled. It's the same as any other appointment. There's the time for it, and I don't need to be constantly distracted by these negative thoughts.
Exactly. And then you link it to journaling. So that's something that I found very useful.
Okay. Can you tell me a bit more about that, maybe?
So I found for myself, again, it's very individualistic. Writing whenever I'm like upset or confused, or just whenever my minds are just all over the place. I always find journaling really helps me understand myself a bit better, be aware of certain things that sometimes I might not be aware of. So in that slot, I always used to use it as like my journaling. If I have a prompt, I write it down, but typically I always just let the mind flow.
And
wherever
that just
it goes.
comes out onto paper.
And it just comes out.
Wow, awesome. The more I speak to you, the more I think of this quote I had heard, and it's really stuck in my mind, that a lot of people want the outcome, they want the success, but they wouldn't be willing to trade with you for all the hard work that goes into it. And it sounds like, as an athlete yourself, as an ex-athlete myself, like we know how much hard work goes into these things, and there's a cost to it. I'm sure you would agree. Yeah. Was it worth it for you? Was it worth the cost of like growing up, not meeting your friends, not going out, not partying, and having to consistently make these decisions to push yourself into another direction? Like, are you happy you made those choices?
Definitely. I think the experiences sport gave me like outweigh any party. At the end of the day, I do believe that no matter what you're going to choose, no matter what choice you're going to make, you're going to sacrifice something. So I could have either sacrificed my sport and maybe the experiences I wouldn't have gotten them to go out to party, to be with my friends, whatever. Or I could have sacrificed those for something that at the end of the day to me was more important, which was my sport. So again, I do feel that you're always going to sacrifice something, no matter what it is. Just make sure that what you're sacrificing is worth it.
It's worth it. And it sounds like I was going to ask you this question, but you've answered it more or less. So you'd gladly do it again. You'd gladly make these decisions again in retrospect, in hindsight, to get yourself where you are now.
Definitely, like 100%. Again, I think the experiences I've had and the values that it's taught me, it's just, yeah, it's like
Worth it.
Definitely worth it.
Okay, and what about when things weren't going well? So when stuff just didn't go in the right direction, you didn't qualify for a competition, or you've put all the reps in but you just can't get the outcome. How did you handle that? So like, you must have questioned it at some point, saying like, why is it, what am I doing? Is it really worth it? How do you work with that? How do you handle that? Like, that's one of the biggest sacrifices, I guess.
Big question. Okay, so I have definitely gone through like these moments where I've said like, why am I putting myself through this sport? Especially nowadays, the more I grow up, the more I don't have time sometimes, So it's like, why am I doing all these sacrifices when things aren't really working? Because it's one thing when you're doing the sacrifices and things are going well. It's another thing when like I've had the past 2 years, like things just haven't been giving me the results, Honestly, I think it's just my love for it, my love for sport, my love for like trying to push myself. I think that's something that constantly like gets me through it. And I'm so passionate about the sport. Like I can't imagine myself like not doing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not even sure if there's like something in particular. It's just, again, the passion for it is just...
It sounds like your reason why is massive. Like you really understand and know why you do it, and it's always at the back of your mind, and that's your driving force, and that's what keeps you going.
Exactly.
Yeah. You've mentioned to me in the past that even though you are a sports psychology practitioner, you understand the skills, you have the awareness, the strategy. I'm sure you check in with yourself. You have gone through periods of putting yourself under too much pressure, getting yourself into a state of anxiety. How did that happen? Like, what did that look like on a day-to-day basis? Like, how do you end up there?
So I would say last season was very much what you described. I had just come off from a season where I hadn't PB'd. So I put a lot of pressure on myself to PB. I knew there were the games that I had to qualify. I knew that I had a chance for a medal. So it was like I was constantly like doing more pressure on myself, basically. And injuries happen, there are things that you can't control. So I was getting even more frustrated because I want to work, because I know I can do this, but things aren't working. And my mind just shut down. Like, it just told me, like, San, no. I was blocking as well. So, like, it was like a mental block where you want to go for a jump, but physically you're just not managing to go for a jump.
That happened to you?
That happened. And funnily enough, it happens a lot in gymnastics, and it's never happened to me in gymnastics. So the fact that it happened to me, it was like a big wake-up call. You're like, what's happening?
So this started happening in pole vault to you? Okay.
And it was just a really terrible phase of overthinking, crying, a lot of crying. My poor coach, I think I drove him crazy. And I was getting very, very anxious as well. I was having like even shortness of breath during training, which I started to really panic about. Yeah, it was not a good phase.
And what did you do? So you became aware of the situation. So probably when you started to see that you have these mental and physical blocks, you became aware that something's going on.
Funny enough, I mean, obviously you know that it's happening, because again, you're getting anxious. You're getting anxious. I really became aware of it during off season. So this is what, let's say January, February, beginning of the year, and off season was July, August, That's when it clicked. I'm like, whoa, like I was so anxious that I was putting my body through more than it needed. Something that I tried to do was I tried to keep pushing through it when I was in this phase. Realized it wasn't working, and then that's when I used the blocking methods of
Okay.
like, I'm not gonna think about this until I'm actually there, which really helped. I did a lot of visualization as well. I did so like I like this thing where you visualize your fear as an object, and slowly you're visualizing it like fading away, and you'd be surprised how much lighter you feel.
So walk me through that. So you think about your fear and you
So
physically think that like you're putting space between
so you
yourself.
think, for example, the fear is a ball of ice, you know, like you see how big it is, whatever, and you imagine it that you're pouring like hot water over it, so it's slowly melting.
No way.
And it really, really helped calm me down. Like I used to just put on this like voiceover kind of to help me like walk through it, and it really helped like as well with the anxiety.
Okay, so kind of the two big skills that you use, kind of obviously from your understanding and your research, where this time blocking, so kind of putting, like giving yourself a time to think of the fearful, the things that you're afraid of, and this kind of distancing technique that you've just walked me through. So
Yeah.
those were the two big ones for you.
Exactly. And I learned that I needed to take a break.
Okay, okay.
You know, I think it was something that I kept trying to push and push when just sometimes you just need to take a step back, honestly.
Okay.
Sometimes the pushing is just making things worse.
Okay.
So I had taken some time off as well from training just to like take that step back.
It's interesting how like you have to pick your own strategies. It really shows how individualized the treatment or the intervention of the mind needs to be as well. That you actually
Exactly.
have to, like even you, that knowing all the strategies, it took you some time to pick which ones are going to work best for you.
And as well, I think that's what's important is sometimes you try different things that you know aren't working, and a lot of people just to say, okay, no, it's just not my thing, it's not working, so like whatever. But you just need to find what works for you, and I think it's something that takes a lot of time, and maybe a lot of people get disheartened by that, but patience really helps get you through it.
And I'm sure guidance as well. So guidance from someone who
Guidance.
understands the topic, be it a physio if it's an injury, or be it a
Exactly.
sports psychology practitioner if it's a mental block, is definitely a big part of it. You keep mentioning injuries to me, and I know you've had your fair share over the times. You mentioned a very interesting one to me, which happened, correct me if I'm wrong, when you were preparing for a gymnastics competition, Commonwealth Games.
Yes.
You're actually on the other side of the world in Australia.
Okay,
And
yeah.
you actually got injured in the warm-up. Can you walk us through that? So what was that all about? How did you deal with that?
Okay, so firstly, walking into like Commonwealth Games was already like a lot of ups and downs. I had taken my first steroid injection like a couple months before, so there was like that. There was a lot of like personal issues as well throughout that year. I had my A levels. I had so many things happening. And anyhow, finally, after all this, I managed to get to Australia. And gymnastics was always the first one. So I had my training, everything was okay. Let's say okay.
Acceptable.
It was okay. And the day of the competition arrived. I was in the warm up of my first apparatus, which was vault. And for the people that understand, I had a front vault. So, like, you're landing, blind landing. And I had opened early and locked both my knees. No idea. I went blank. Like, honestly, at that point in time, I had no idea what was happening. I just knew that I couldn't move my legs. And I was just like, what am I going to do?
So you basically landed on locked knees.
Locked knees, like-
injured both sides, injured one side.
Both.
And you had a competition coming up in what, a couple of hours?
Couple of minutes. And I remember like the physios came and they're like, it's gonna be okay. They put ice and they're taping and they're wrapping it up. I was like a mummy, man. Like, it was hilarious. And like slowly I was like, okay, no, I can't move. I'm fine. Like nothing too serious. And I remember walking. I remember going to the bathroom, looking in the mirror, just being like, son, you're in Australia. You're gonna go compete. Like, I don't care what's gonna happen. Like, you're gonna compete. And I remember, again, then there's that like psychological aspect of you just had a terrible fall from this vault and you're gonna do it.
And you have to go and do the
And you
same
have to go and
thing
do it.
that just
And it
hurt you.
was, warm-up was over, so I had to just go compete it.
Oh my God.
Oh my God, I'm getting nervous like now thinking
Talking
about
about
it.
it.
It was, and these are like little moments that really helped me understand how like mentally strong I am as a person. And that's why I think sport is so beautiful as well, because that's what taught me how to be like that,
Yeah,
you
it
know?
really goes to show you how hard-headed athletes are, like in a
Yeah.
good way and in a bad way.
Yeah,
But
it can
in a
go
moment
both
like
ways.
that, it's quite insane. It's really the big reason I promote sport with children as well. Like, just get into sports, whatever the sport is. It doesn't really matter if you're very good at it or if you're very bad at it, but there's skills you learn. The same thing we said early on in this conversation that you can't get from anything else. Like, school will try to teach you, but sport and other things which are challenging, which are tough, just teach you these skill sets that you can't really get from anywhere else.
Exactly.
That's such an interesting, it's such an interesting point. I know that nowadays you've gone through the injuries, you're working through injuries at the moment as well, but I know injury prevention is a lot more important for you right now. Do you prioritize anything at the moment? So, like, do you prioritize kind of strength training? Like, are you less hard with yourself when it comes to training? Are you selective of your training days?
So I definitely listen to my body better when I'm tired, when I've had a long day and I'm just like mentally not there. I think that's something that, especially if I'm jumping, I need to be mentally there. Because, again, me being hard headed, how you said, as well, athletes and so on, there have been days where I've been mentally off and still go for it. What happens? I get hurt. So now, hopefully, I've learned from my mistakes. And I'm definitely more aware about how my body is feeling, after specific training sessions, or like after a long day, or again, pain. I don't let it go on for long before I go see a physio and so on. Apart from that, then there's the importance of strength training, which I am working on. Sometimes it's hard to like balance things out between like my own training and strength training and like the programs. Again, like, you have to follow the coach's programs, but then you
Yeah.
have to follow this, and then there's a competition coming up, so
Yes,
it's a
and then
bit
there's rehab time
And then
and
there's
recovery
the-
time and all that, and all of a sudden the day is over.
exactly.
Yeah, so trying to balance out all of this different training. One of the questions I have is around recovery. This question is brought to us by one of our sponsors, Haga. I'd love to ask you about what your like one thing you always do with regards to recovery. So, like, your non-negotiable. Like, what is the big thing for you? Is it like ice baths, recovery boots? Like, what's your secret when it comes to needing to recover from a tough day to go into another one?
My secret is 10 hours of sleep.
Do you genuinely sleep 10 hours?
I sleep 10 hours a day. I know it's so bad. And if I don't sleep 10 hours a day, I don't have a problem.
You can't function. So sleep is a really big one for you.
It is really important. Like, I feel like, number one, you really wind down, and it just, even with regards to your body's recovery, like, just sleep.
It's a massive one. I mean, we're joking about it, but in reality, 80% of recovery is sleep, nutrition, hydration, So a lot of
Exactly.
people try to do the top 1%, and they're not looking after the 80% at the bottom, So if you are sleeping well, eating well, drinking enough fluids, then most of your recovery is looked after, and then you can start to consider all the extras. So I think that's probably the right answer, if there's a right answer. Sleep is the big one. So a different aspect of your life that I guess a few more people know about you is your life online. So you are a content creator. It's a big part of your life, and I'm sure it's been something life-changing for you.
Yes, so it's definitely helped me be a bit more like flexible with work. Something that I really had started struggling with is balancing being an athlete with work. And social media has given me an opportunity kind of to be able to focus a bit more on being an athlete right now. So I'm very thankful for that.
Okay, and you've actually turned social media into something you can make money from. So it's like a revenue stream for you, and it's something that you can kind of depend on to give you an income.
Yes, thankfully I have like my sponsors, which have been like a huge help. And I think they've really made such a big difference, honestly, in my life. Because how you said, like, I can maybe not work as much, so I can put more time into being an athlete.
Being an athlete and all it entails, the recovery and
everything,
the training and all of that. I'm sure there's a pressure from being on social media. I have quite a few followers. I'm sure you get quite a bit of positive comments, but then negative comments as well. Is that something that nowadays has a negative impact on you at all? Or can you kind of just ignore the bad DMs and the tough stuff?
I think I've been brought up in such a way, again, maybe it's my mindset or something, that I just block out or laugh them off, honestly, nowadays. Because at the end of the day, this is something that even with athletes, I try to help them with individuals, as in I try to help understand. People are going to do and say whatever they want. You know, you're on social media, so more so people can comment, can send messages, can do whatever, and then it's up to you as to how you react, what you choose to think about, and so on. So although there are good and bad comments, I just choose to look at the good.
Yeah, and that's a fantastic a fantastic mindset to have. I think it would be great if everyone had that. I mean, one of the things I've really learned is you have very limited options around the way someone reacts or comes out to you. The only option you have is how you react to that reaction, kind of thing. So you kind of have to keep the control and keep your mindset yours, and you can make a decision about how you react to this stuff. You're very real online, so you've talked a lot about your struggles and these kinds of things. I mean, you talk a lot about the good, but you talk about the bad as well. Has that ever hurt you? So has being a real person online ever hurt maybe your selection chances, or do you feel like being authentic has always been an asset for you?
I'm not gonna lie, I've had people commenting like, someone don't post that because they still have to make their selections. And I was like, oh.
For a national team, for
like a competition for a national team and so on. And to be honest, it wasn't really something I had thought about, because, I mean, why should, if you qualify, if you've passed all your tests and all this, why should what you say on social media then like reflect on it? So far it hasn't affected, but after I had heard this comment, I did end up taking a step back.
Okay. So you feel like there is pressure to not be 100% authentic online almost?
Yeah. It's difficult, especially when you have certain agreements, you know, and you need to be, although I'm not really, but you need to try, I guess, be a bit, or as there is that pressure more so that, listen, an athlete should not be going through this or shouldn't have these issues or whatever. So a lot of people do try brush them under the rug, like.
Yeah. Well, just from my end, I think it's so important that we do show that real athletes have real struggles, that it's not all kind of roses, because if you come into something expecting it's going to be easy, you're probably going to fail. It's fine to fail, but I think people should understand that there are mental struggles, there are physical struggles to everything you want to do, and that for every successful human being, there is a whole tough road and a whole lot of hurdles they've jumped over. So
Exactly, and me being on social media, as I want to try as much as possible show like an athlete, you know, through all the ups and the downs. Most of them are downs, honestly. Like we have so many tough moments that we go through for sometimes such a little reward. And it is something that I want to show, and I do want to show as well the mental struggles that we face. Even me being a sports psychology practitioner, I go through all these struggles, you know. So it's important to be aware of these things.
Yeah. I know that at the moment you're kind of in a recovery phase from last season, so you're working on yourself, you're working on your mental health, your physical health. What are you looking to achieve through this? So kind of what would a great next season look like for you? What's your goal? What's your next step?
I think my goal would be to like fall in love with the sport again. I think last season really like broke me to a certain extent, where I was going to training like not even happy, like why am I here? Why am I doing this? Why am I still pushing? So I'm hoping like obviously once this recovery phase is over and I go back into the sport, I can just like go, be happy, enjoy it, have fun. Remember that that's why I do sport, you know. I love the feeling, I love the challenges, but it's also there because it's fun.
Yeah, the fun element is essential. If you don't feel it, it's always a bit of a...
And especially if you're training all those hours every day, you know, it's like you need to have a bit of fun in it, you know.
Definitely. Okay, and just for people listening in, if you as a sports psychology practitioner, as a very successful athlete, if you could just give kind of one habit that people can implement rather quickly just to start building this, maybe not unbreakable mindset, but a stronger mindset, what habit would you get people to kind of pick up just to start creating some positive change?
A habit to pick up. There are so many. Oh my goodness, my mind is like just like. I guess I would say just like I think this journaling just really helps gain that awareness, and I think that's the first step. You don't need to journal every day. You don't need to journal every, I don't know, even if it's once in a while, once a month, just to get you to understand maybe what you want out of this month, what maybe happened last month that you weren't very happy with. Again, the more aware you are of certain things, the more you can adapt and build maybe the habits then that you want.
Cool. So it's not really about starting to do something, it's starting to become aware. You think that's
Yeah.
the first step that a lot of people need to take? And yeah, I mean, that's awesome. We live such a fast-paced life that it's really tough to be aware, to understand, and
And
just
to reflect. So
yeah, and to spend these 10 minutes maybe a day just with your own mind and see how you're feeling is fantastic.
but that's why I didn't say every day, because people will look at it and be like, "Oh my goodness,
Forget
no,"
it, man. No chance.
you know.
Cool. Sana, what can I say? I just want to thank you so much for being so honest. I love that you gave us this framework which makes sports psychology and psychology in general a bit more accessible. And I think that was just a fantastic conversation. And just for people listening in, if today's conversation has helped, please follow us on the Rise podcast or on social media at We Are Rise Physio, We Are Rise Fitness. And to Sana, thank you so
Thank
much.
you so
You're
much,
fantastic. And I really hope that was fun for you as well. Fun elements
It was
important.
great.
Thanks.